Chapter 27, Hungry Ghosts. After a while, you'd finished 2 simple necklaces, and I finished a half. We managed to sell one of yours, but for a pitiful sum of money. I try not to be too disappointed. Surely our bead sales would pick up once again when we had a bigger stock of necklaces to show. Let's head back, I said. It looks like it's letting up a bit. Pale sunshine poked through a break in the clouds as we walked back to the graveyard. It hardly ever rained all day and all night, even at the peak of the rainy season. But although the rain had been light, we stayed out so long that our clothes were wet all the way through. I hoped the sun would soon dry us. We had no change of clothes. At the graveyard, Cootie ran to greet the boys who were waiting for us. "Any luck?" I asked. "Not really," Arul said. "We went all the way to a waste mart I'd seen before, but it's gone. They've bulldozed the slums in that part of the city to build a shopping complex. Speaking of buildings, we found this great place to build a new shelter." Muthu showed me a grave that was wider than the rest, beneath a banyan tree, and a nice plastic tablecloth. Not so nice, I thought. The tablecloth stank like the garbage they rescued it from. The only thing that was great was how cheerful Muthu sounded. The boys suggested we build a tent around the large grave, using it as the floor of our shelter, because it was raised above the soggy ground. You and Muthu dragged some fallen branches over to use as tent poles. We stuck them as deep into the ground as we could. We used one tarp as our roof, tying its 4 corners to the tops of the tent pole branches with ropes the boys had scrounged up. Once our roof was up, we pulled the other around the poles, securing it as best we could to make 3 flimsy walls. We hung the tablecloth across that side, but was still open, to make a flappy door. "We found these 3 bits of tire to use as pillows," Arul said. "I don't need one. And later we can get new mats." As you and Muthu arranged the pieces of tire in our shelter, you doubled over with a coughing fit. I quickly mixed the powder Tea Shop Auntie had given us with the rainwater I collected. Arul and I set a good example by drinking some of the bitter liquid. But Muthu made a huge fuss. "Tastes worse than poison," he sputtered, swallowing it only after I promised to reward him with a cookie. And I couldn't get you to swallow more than a mouthful. You spat out the first sip and then refused to eat or drink anything else. Not even the bananas Arul had brought, or our cookies. "Can't be good for us," Muthu declared, "if it's made Ruku lose her appetite." We squeezed into our new sleeping quarters. I was almost happy it was so cramped, because I was grateful for the warmth. Our damp clothes made me feel chilly. And because though I knew Arul was right that we had nothing to fear from the dead, a part of me was still scared a ghost might fly by. Ghosts didn't visit, but swarms of mosquitoes did, feasting on us and droning loudly in our ears. "Nice lullaby," Muthu said. "When we move out of this place, I'll miss our musical entertainment." "Tomorrow, we'll buy some mosquito repellent," Arul promised. Too tired to swat at the hungry mosquitoes, I dozed off, only to be wakened by the sound of footsteps. Someone was moving around in the graveyard. Had the waste mart man found us? Or was it a ghost? I held on to Cootie so he wouldn't give away our hiding place. His hair was on end, and he stood alert. "There's nothing here." It was a rasping voice I didn't recognize. A boy, definitely not the waste mart man. "This place is nice and peaceful and deserted. Now let's go back." "I'm telling you, this place is haunted," came another boy's voice. "I saw a ghost moving near the banyan tree yesterday evening when I was cycling by." Arul stood up. He'd heard the approaching voices too. A twig snapped so loudly it roused you and Muthu. "Hungry," you moaned. "Hungry." "Shh," I whispered. "Shh, please, Ruku." "Did you hear that?" a voice said. I stiffened. Didn't hear anything. The other boy was trying to sound nonchalant, but his voice trembled. Hungry, you wailed again. Hungry! Ghost? The second voice yelped. Ghost! Hungry, you shrieked. Hungry! We heard the boys thrashing through the undergrowth, twigs snapping as they rushed away from us through the darkness. Muthu's shoulders shook with suppressed laughter. I heard the boys call out for God's protection and dash away, raising a racket as they stumbled through the dark graveyard. Muthu couldn't control his laughter anymore. It burst out of him, but he did his best to sound like a demonic villain. Arul and I gave in to our laughter too. When we finally stopped roaring, tears were running down my cheeks. But then you tired yourself out. Sorry, I hiccuped, finally finding the bananas you refused to eat that evening and handed you one. Those boys were just too funny. Great work, Ruku. Arul patted you on the back. You just made this graveyard even safer than it was before. What were they up to? I said. Daring each other to explore a haunted graveyard? Rich boys for sure, Arul said. You have to be rich to waste time going on escapades at night instead of catching up on precious sleep.